first presentation is Psychology of Unity, the Path to a Whole Person and Society. This is a topic that lies at the heart of both personal and collective transformation, the psychology of unity. So it's my pleasure to welcome Miss Helena Rebekka Kabat. She is a psychologist with a background in philology and behavioral psychology. She's worked extensively with children and adolescents in the field of emotional development. Her work today focuses on integrative psychology, combining therapeutic approaches with bioenergetic analysis and exploring how inner awareness shapes our connection with others and the wider human system. Through both practical experience and theoretical reflection, she brings a perspective that connects personal development and collective harmony. Please join me in warmly welcoming her.
Всем доброго дня. Я благодарю
организаторов
за возможность выступить.
Thank you for allowing me to share this subject. For me, it's a personal theme for me. I'd like to share some of the conclusions that I have. Please, slides.
Итак, тема психологии единства или путь от самопознания к космическому пониманию.
From self-knowledge to cosmic understanding, an integral paradigm of knowing the human being and the universe.
От самопознания к космическому пониманию. Интегральная парадигма. Познай самого себя, и ты познаешь Вселенную и богов.
Know thyself, and you shall know the universe and the gods.
Это древняя формула.
This ancient formula reflects the fundamental idea of the connection between self-knowledge and understanding the world. The question of how human beings come to know the world has remained one of the central questions throughout the history of science and philosophy, from ancient Greek thought to modern research in cognitive science and cosmology. The same fundamental problem can be traced. Can a person understand the structure of the universe without first examining their own mechanisms of perception and thinking? Modern interdisciplinary research increasingly shows that the cognition of reality cannot be considered outside the context of human consciousness, through which the picture of the world is formed. In this sense, the study of the universe is inevitably linked with the study of the observer themselves. In recent decades, the development of the systems thinking, cognitive science, and integral approaches has led to a formation of a new scientific perspective in which the human being is viewed not as an external observer of the universe, but as an element of a complex system of interconnections. In this perspective, the process of self-knowledge, social interactions, and scientific inquiry prove to be complementary aspects of a single process of knowing reality. This opens the possibility of viewing the path from knowing oneself to exploring the universe as a progressive expansion of the horizon of the human consciousness. In this report examines the relationship between a person's inner self-knowledge and their aspiration to study the external world, including from the perspective of the integral approach and spiritual concepts. Let's consider the human being as a part of a unified system of consciousness. The development of cognitive science, social psychology, and systems theory shows that consciousness is formed through a continuous exchange of information, emotions, and meanings between people and their environment. In this context, individual consciousness cannot be fully understood outside the network of relationships in which it develops. Human thinking and perception are formed through social interaction. Language,
Человеческое мышление и восприятие формируются в процессе социального
Human thinking and perception are formed through social interactions. Language, cultural models, collective representations, and forms of communication create the space in which an individual's picture of the world is formed. Thus, consciousness can be viewed not only as an individual phenomenon, but also as a result of the interaction of many people within a complex social system. Some researchers describe such processes through the concept of collective or distributed consciousness. According to this approach, knowledge, ideas, and ways of interpreting reality are formed and developed through the collective exchange of experience. A person becomes a bearer not only of individual experience, but also of cultural and social experience formed within the human community. The internal paradigm allows these processes to be viewed in a broader context. In it, the development of human consciousness is linked not only to individual experience, but also to the development of a collective forms of comprehending reality. As interaction between the people deepens, the possibility arises for the formation of more complex forms of collective understanding of the world based on dialogue, joint inquiry, and the exchange of knowledge. Self-knowledge as the foundation of knowing the world. Self-knowledge is a fundamental foundation of understanding the surrounding reality. A person studies their thoughts, emotions, behavior, and forms a system of values and worldview. Classical philosophical schools such as Socratic traditions of self-knowledge and modern psychological theories confirm that inner investigation leads to an expansion of the boundaries of understanding the world. The integral approach emphasizes that the human being is an inseparable part of the unified system of the universe, and their inner changes influence the perception of reality. Historical examples of the connection between self-knowledge and the study of the universe. Antiquity. The philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle emphasized the connection between self-knowledge and knowledge of the surrounding world. The Renaissance. Leonardo da Vinci combined art and science, basing his work on a deep analysis of human nature. Modern science. Quantum mechanics and the theory of relativity were formed as a result of deep analysis of the principles of perception and the subjectivity of the observer. Methods of self-knowledge and their influence on the study of the world. Meditation and reflection help one become aware of the connection between the subjective experience and objective reality. Psychological research shows that self-analysis promotes the development of critical thinking and the scientific approach. Scientific methods in physics, biology, and cognitive sciences are based on principles of observation and experiment similar to methods of inner analysis. The integral method suggests that a person can achieve a deep understanding of the universe through unification with others, developing a collective perception of reality. The deeper a person becomes aware of their internal processes, thoughts, emotions, reactions, the more complex and subtle patterns they begin to notice in the external world. This is because perception is not a neutral instrument. It is shaped by internal models, accumulated experience, and the level of awareness. By expanding self-understanding, a person essentially tunes the lens through which they look at reality and begins to see not only individual phenomena, but also the connection between them, the dynamics of a system, and the hidden causes of what is happening. One can imagine a person as a sensitive sensor with a large network. The more precisely it turns, the deeper and more holistic the picture it is capable of reading and transmitting into the shared field of interaction. It is precisely this path, from studying the inner world to understanding the external one, that became the foundation for the development of such fields in neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and the philosophy of consciousness. Due to the large volumes of information, the development of neural networks and artificial intelligence technologies also contributes. By creating models of thinking, perception, and decision making, a person essentially reproduces their own cognitive processes, trying to understand now how awareness, choice, and meaning arise. Thus, the study of the consciousness becomes not merely a personal practice. From the perspective of the integral approach, a person is viewed not as an isolated unit, but as an element of a complex, interconnected system, social, cultural, cognitive, and even biospheric. And here the metaphor of the sensor reveals itself more deeply. Each person not only perceives reality, but also influences it through their state, attention, and quality of presence. Therefore, the level of development of society is directly connected to the level of awareness of its participants. When a person begins to realize their internal dynamics, they gradually begin to see their influence on others, on the atmosphere of interaction, and on the decisions being made. And then a new understanding of responsibility emerges, not as an external demand, but as a natural consequence of being included in the overall system. The more people become aware nodes of this network, the more coherent, sensitive, and resilient the entire system becomes as a whole. Modern science has significantly expanded the possibility of studying the universe. Cosmology, astrophysics, quantum physics, and other disciplines allow human beings to penetrate the depth of space and reveal the patterns of how matter is organized. However, in parallel with this, it is becoming increasingly evident that the boundaries of knowledge are determined not only by the technical means or theoretical models, but also by the characteristics of the observer themselves, their perception, cognitive structure, and inner state. In recent decades, the idea of the need to move from a fragmented understanding of reality to a holistic, systemic vision of the world has been voiced increasingly, often in various fields of science. The development of systems theory, interdisciplinary research, and integral approaches shows that complex phenomena of nature and society cannot be adequately described with narrow disciplinary boundaries. Reality appears as a multidimensional, interconnected system in which the human being is not an external observer, but an integral part of it. In this content, the integral approach to cognition takes on special significance, viewing the human being simultaneously as a subject of inquiry and as an element of a broader system of the universe. This approach presumes that a person's internal states, their ways of perceiving, thinking, and interacting with others, exert a substantial influence on the formation of a picture of the world. Consequently, the study of reality inevitably includes the study of the very process of perception and consciousness. The central idea of this work is that the deepening and understanding of a person's inner world opens new possibilities for comprehending the structure and patterns of the surrounding reality. The transition from knowing oneself to study the universe allows us to view the human being as the universe not as opposed entities, but as interconnected levels of a single system. Research methodology. The methodological foundation of this research is the integral approach, which combines the idea of systems thinking, interdisciplinary analysis, and reflective investigation of human consciousness. Within this approach, the human being is viewed simultaneously as a subject of cognition and as an element of a broader system of interconnections that includes natural, social, and cognitive processes. An important element of the research is also interdisciplinary analysis, which combines ideas from philosophy, cognitive science, psychology of perception, and complex systems theory. This approach allows the problem of knowing the human being in the universe to be examined from various scientific perspectives, contributing to the formation of a more holistic picture of the processes under consideration. A special place in the research methodology is occupied by reflective analysis directed at studying the mechanism of human perception and the formation of the picture of the world. This method involves comprehending the role of the subject of cognition and their inner experience in the process of the of inter interpreting reality. In addition, the work employs conceptual analysis aimed at identifying the interrelationship between the concepts of self-knowledge, consciousness, integral thinking, and the study of the universe. Such analysis makes it possible to systemize existing scientific approaches and identify their potential for forming an integral paradigm of cognition. Perceptual reality in the context of integral psychology. We don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are. And that's his name. One of the key aspects of internal understanding of a human being is the study of the mechanism of perceptual reality. Perception is a complex cognitive process involving sensory systems, emotional states, prior experience, and cultural models. Through this process, a person forms their picture of the world and determines ways of interacting with the surrounding reality. Modern research in psychology and cognitive science shows that perception is always interpretive in nature. A person does not simply register events as they happen, but actively assigns meaning to them, correlating incoming information with their internal representations and expectations. As a result, a subjective model of reality is formed, which can differ significantly among different people, even when they are in identical situations. Integral psychology views perception is a multi-layer process involving the interaction of internal and external dimensions of human experience. A person's internal states, their emotional reactions, attitudes, and level of awareness influence how they interpret occurring events. At the same time, the social environment, cultural context, and forms of communication also participate in shaping perception. In this context, self-knowledge acquires special significance by becoming aware of one's own mechanisms of perception. A person gains the opportunity to take a more critical stance towards their interpretations of what is happening and to expand the boundaries of understanding reality. The development of reflection allows one to notice the cognitive and emotional filters through which perceived information passes, and gradually to form a more holistic and systematic perception of the world. The classical scientific paradigm, based on breaking phenomena down into individual elements and studying them in isolation, has achieved significant success in the study of nature. However, when analyzing complex systems such as human consciousness, society, or ecosystems, this approach encounters significant limitations. More and more researchers are concluding that complex phenomena requires the integration of various levels of analysis and an interdisciplinary approach. The tradition to an integral understanding of reality inevitably raises the question of developing new forms of thinking and education. If the world is viewed as a complex, interconnected system, then learning processes must be aimed not only at transmitting knowledge, but also at developing a person's ability to perceive interconnections between phenomena, to be aware of their own cognitive processes, and to understand their role in the system of human relationships. Modern research in education increasingly emphasizes the need for the formation of systemic and integral thinking. Traditional educational models, based primarily on the transmission of specialized knowledge, often prove insufficient for understanding complex global processes. As Edgar Morin notes, the education of the future must teach people to understand the interconnectedness of the world and human beings placed in this interconnectedness. Integral education strives to unite various levels of personal development, cognitive, emotional, social, and value-based. This approach involves the development of not only of intellectual abilities, but also of the skills of reflection, empathy, conscious interaction, and the ability to see broader context of ongoing processes. In this sense, education becomes a space for forming holistic perception of reality. The social dimension of cognition plays a special role in the integral paradigm. A person develops and forms their understanding of the world not in isolation, but with a system of relationships with other people. Joint activity, exchanges of experience, and collective discussion of complex questions create conditions for the formation of a deeper understanding of reality. The human being is observer and participant of reality. Mind is not a thing, but a process occurring with a system of relationships. Gregory Bateson. This idea shows that the processes of thinking and perception are formed not only within a person, but also in the context of their interaction with the environment. In the traditional scientific picture of the world, the view of the human being as an external observer capable of objectively studying the surrounding reality prevailed for a long time. However, the development of the philosophy of science, cognitive research, and system thinking has shown that the observer cannot be completely separated from the observed reality. All knowledge is formed through processes of perception, interpretation, and comprehension that occur within the persons themselves. Modern research in the field of psychology of perception and cognitive science confirms that a person perceives not reality itself in the immediate fullness, but certain models of the world formed in the process of information processing. This model is shaped under the influence of many factors: sensory limitations, cognitive structures, emotional states, cultural context, and social interactions. Thus, the perception of the world is not a passive reflection of external reality, but an active process of its interpretation. It becomes especially important to understand that human perception develops and changes along with the development of the person themselves. As awareness expands and understanding of one's own inner world deepens, the way of perceiving external reality also changes. Thus, the cognition of the world gradually acquires a two-sided character. On the one hand, the person studies the surrounding reality, striving to understand its patterns and structure. On the other hand, they study themselves, their way of perceiving, thinking, and interacting. It is precisely at the intersection of these two directions that the possibility of a deeper understanding of both the human being and the universe arises. Integral understanding of the interconnectedness of the human being and the universe. In nature, there are no isolated phenomena. Everything exists only in relationships. Fritjof Capra. Modern scientific research increasingly points to the fact that reality is a complex system of interconnected processes. From the microworld of elementary particles to global cosmic structures, a deep interdependence of phenomena is observed, where changes in one part of the system can influence its other elements. Such an understanding gradually forms a new specific picture of the world, in which the idea of interconnectedness occupies a central place. An integral understanding of reality presumes that human development is linked not only to the accumulation of knowledge about the external world, but also to the expansion of the ability to perceive interconnections between phenomena. As awareness develops, a person begins to perceive the surrounding reality as a dynamic field of interactions, where each element influences the overall process of the system development. Consciousness is the key factor in forming the picture of the world. Consciousness arises from the continuous interaction of the brain, body, and environment. Antonio DiMaggio. One of the most important questions of modern science is the role of consciousness in the process of forming the picture of reality. While in the classical scientific paradigm, consciousness was viewed primarily as a byproduct of brain activity, modern interdisciplinary research increasingly draws attention to its active role in organizing human experience and knowing the world. The cognitive science shows that the perception of reality is not a simple reflection of the external world. On the contrary, a person actively constructs a picture of the surrounding reality, relying on existing cognitive schemes, emotional states, and social experience. As neuroscientist Antonio DiMaggio notes, consciousness arises from the complex interaction of body, brain, and environment, forming a dynamic representation of the world and of oneself. Representatives of the system approach expresses a similar idea. Gregory Bateson viewed the process of thinking and perception of the broader system of interaction that includes the person and the environment. In his world, mind is not limited to the confines of the brain. It extends to the entire system of the organism's interaction with the surrounding world. The integral approach strives to unite various levels of analysis: physical, biological, psychological, and social. According to Ken Wilber's integral theory, reality can be examined through several complementary perspectives: internal and external, individual and collective. Such a multidimensional vision makes it possible to overcome the one-sidedness of reductionist models and to view the human being as a complex system embedded within the broader structure of the universe. Integral model of cognition, I-we world. This model shows how the field of cognition expands from a person's inner experience to the understanding of the universe, self-knowledge, and a study of consciousness, perception, emotions, thinking, awareness, and personal experience. We, the social level, collective consciousness and interactions, communication, culture, education, joint comprehension of experience, social systems. 3. World, universal level, study of the universe, natural systems, global processes, cosmic evolution, interconnectedness of all levels of reality. Global interdependence of humanity in the new scientific picture of the world. Humanity is becoming a unified system of interdependent relationships. Ilya Prigozhin. One of the characteristic features of the current state of civilization development is the growing interdependence of people, societies, and cultures. Events occurring in one part of the world can quickly influence other regions, forming a unified space of interaction. Many contemporary researchers view this interconnectedness as a manifestation of a deeper systematic structure of human society. Fritjof Capra notes that modern scientific discoveries increasingly confirm the network nature of reality, where the stability of systems is determined not by individual elements, but by the character of their interrelationships. The integral paradigm of cognition views the development of collective consciousness as a natural stage in the evolution of human society. As interconnectedness grows, the need increases for a higher level of awareness that allows one to take into account not only individual interests, but also the systematic consequences of decision being made. Examining the relationship between the self-knowledge and the study of the universe allows us to take a fresh look at the very process of cognition. Understanding the mechanisms of perception, interpretation, and interactions with the surrounding world becomes an important condition for forming a more holistic picture of reality. Self-knowledge in this context acquires a new significance. It becomes not only an instrument of personal development, but also an important element of cognitive activity. The internal perspective makes it possible to unite different levels of analysis, individual, social, and cosmic, into a single system of understanding. A person begins to perceive themselves not as an isolated being, but as part of a complex network of interconnections that includes other people, society, and the natural environment. In the perspective of future research, the integral paradigm may become an important direction in the development of modern science, contributing to the formation of a more comprehensive and interconnected understanding of the human being, society, and the universe. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kabat. Let's see if we have questions, first of all, here in the Zoom, and if not, then we'll take questions from social media. So you can raise your hand if you have a question here in the Zoom. Okay. Dr. Eliav.
Большое спасибо, Ребекка, за прекрасный доклад.
Thank you very much for the beautiful presentation.
Возможность организации
I'm interested in an organization of a new collective level
коллективном сознании, когда есть
in the
переход
collective consciousness
мы в
when
совершенно новое глобальное я, когда
when from we a new global I
ощущение совершенно
appears
нового
and
уровня,
there's an understanding of a new level of life,
уровня организации, можно
a
сказать,
level of
материи.
organization of a matter.
Многие сейчас
Uh,
биологи, они
many
рассматривают
biologists look at
такие явления, как
such
те самые
effects as
муравейники или многоклеточные
ant
жизни,
farms or
создали совершенно новое
where
состояние
a new
материи. То есть вот есть жидкое
level of matter
газообразная
exists,
плазма, и это
where there's still
состояние, когда
liquid
живые
plasma, but there's a new
объединиться,
phenomena of
какой-то новый супер.
life organisms uniting and forming a
Я хотел
system.
бы узнать
I would like
ваше
to
мнение,
find out your opinion
практические
if there's a
методы
practical
прийти
methods
к такому
to come to this
организму,
superorganism
всего
on the
человечества.
level of
Думаете, как
humanity.
на самом деле сделать?
How do you think? Is it how can we do it in
Спасибо
practice?
большое, это очень важный, хороший
Thank you
вопрос.
very much. Very
В
important
принципе,
question.
это и есть коллективное сознание.
Basically, this is a collective consciousness,
Это абсолютно не абстрактно.
and it's not abstract.
Это совершенно достижимо.
It's achievable.
Этот феномен совершенно достижим. То есть это нужно практиковать попросту.
We just need to
Например,
practice it.
допустим,
For
есть
example,
курс у нас, на
we
котором
have a
мы просто учим
course
создавать именно
where
это
we
коллективное
teach
сознание.
people to form this
Это просто проявление распределенного мышления. Практически это проявляется,
consciousness.
проверяется через групповую работу, совместное
We achieve
обсуждение
it through
сложных
group
вопросов, наблюдение, как
work,
меняется восприятие
discussing
процессов,
difficult questions.
взаимодействия. И многие
For
современные
example,
исследования в
the
области
attainment of
когнитивных
this,
наук и социальной психологии это подтверждают.
and the scientists confirm
Мы
this.
правда влияем на
We
систему своим
we
состоянием.
affect the system by our state.
All right. Thank you for the question and the answer. And next, we have time for one more question from Dr. Pines. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I'm wondering, in practical application of this integral psychology method to humanity, would you see it as being flat, in other words, a balance across the globe, or would you see it as a hierarchical, let's say different culture, within the slight differences in different cultural groups, balancing them, and then larger and larger hierarchies in relationship? Do you see it as a flat thing with humanity, or as itself, like the human systems up, like a hierarchy in application? I'm sorry if the question is too abstract, but I hope it's more practical.
Конечно, глобально. Тут даже нечего спрашивать. Это
Versus global,
дано, каждый
no
может
question.
этому научиться.
Everybody
This
can
is
achieve it.
it's a
Everybody can
more
learn it.
flat global
practice.
issue. It can be
Absolutely, it's
done
achievable
by
for everyone.
for everyone.
This is
That's
why
why we
we're
have those courses
we're
that
conducting these
teach people how
courses that
to learn that
allow people to
without
learn.
differences in
So we
culture
invite
or
everyone
social group.
to attend our
It's all ready.
courses.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Ms. Kabat, for this insightful and thought-provoking presentation. As we continue, we're going to...